It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today.
Hey guys, welcome to this episode of Reality Check. We are your hosts, Jess and Jill, and we are here to bring a dose of reality to the online health and fitness space. We hope to empower and educate you on all the choices so that you can ultimately make the best decisions for your own personal health and sustained fitness journey.
So for today, we are going to be talking about why you need to build muscle if you want to stay lean. I think that there's this misconception that we need to burn calories and do cardio for fat loss and then build muscle if we want to look like a bodybuilder. And it's like, it's just so backwards. So we're going to talk about that today, why it is beneficial for you, not only health-wise, but physique-wise, if you want to keep fat off to build muscle.
And I cannot tell you guys how many times someone has come to me and said, I want to lose fat first and then build a little bit of muscle or and then I want to tone. And I'm like, no, we're going about this the wrong way and totally wrong mindset. Or God bless the woman I spoke to yesterday said she's trying to lose fat, but she doesn't understand why. And she's burning 600 calories every Zumba class. And I'm like, oh, we have so much work to do. But I truly think like, we talk so much about metabolism and all of these other topics when it comes to health. But if I'm being honest, adding muscle is probably like the main goal for all of our clients and what we're trying to do, because it really is the answer to a lot of their complaints. And they don't realize that they want to lose fat. They want all these things. They want a faster metabolism. They want to have more flexibility in their meals, in their diet, in their life. And the answer is just add muscle most of the time, honestly. So they don't always know that that's what direction we're going and what their goal is. Or if they say, I want to tone, right? I want to have bigger glutes. I want to have smaller waist. I'm like, cool, let's build some muscle, right? And they think in their head, I need to burn fat. But it's usually actually the opposite, which is so fun to watch clients finally shift their mindset, away from that calorie burning, gross approach to fat loss.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Like, we don't care how much you burn during a workout at all. If you listen to our last episode about the metabolism and like what composes our daily caloric expenditure, the actual exercise you're doing is a very, very small piece of that. If we can speed up your base metabolic rate, we can get you burning calories so much more all the time when you're not working out by putting more muscle in your body. And then like Jill said, it's not just the metabolic effects of burning more calories all the time. Also, it's going to sculpt you. Like, women will always show us pictures and be like, this is what I want to go for. This is the look I'm going for. It's lean, it's toned, it's whatever. And it's like, that girl has more muscle than you. And that's why she looks that way, because that muscle is peeking through under that body fat. Like, we all have some body fat. We all have our skin over our muscle. Like, we all have this stuff going on. And women aren't realizing like that is the version of them 10 pounds heavier in muscle.
Yes.
And,
oh my God,
and they're scared to get there. They're scared to get there because that might cause a little bit of weight gain in the meantime.
Yes. And, they think, hopefully, I think we've across industry wide, at least one consensus that we've all agreed upon is that you can't spot reduce body fat, right? Like I feel like we've got that message out there pretty strong. I'll say it anyway. But you can't spot reduce body fat. And like Jess said, sometimes people will send me a picture of like, I love this girl's physique. And I'm like, yeah, scroll through her updates. She weighs 20 pounds more than you, but they're so focused on the scale has to go down that we actually lose sight of what our ultimate goal is. And also, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, but you cannot build the muscle to get the physique that you want being in an endless calorie deficit. You have to eat to build the muscle, which we'll talk about. And it's my favorite thing to do. Eating and building muscle are like my favorite pastimes.
I think that it was a Mind Pump, a Sal DiStefano quote, but he always compared it to like building a house. And it's like, you could put in all the work of working out, but pretend you're building a house. You hire this construction crew and they're standing around all day working, right? But you've never given them the bricks or the blocks to actually put it together. Like, that's what's happening if you're working out really, really hard and then you're not eating enough food, especially protein.
Yeah, it's so true. And, we use the term foundation a lot and building the foundation when it comes to building a house. And it's so true. Like, you got to lay the bricks down. You got to lay build the basement. You got to do all those things first. And I think that we are on the fast track to like planting the flowers and picking the color of the front door, right? And like we can't do that until we actually have a house to do those things with. And I think it's such a good analogy to approaching just weight loss and fitness and physiques and all of that in general. But I think literally the term weight loss is frustrating almost to talk about because it's not the goal. It's not what we want for our clients. And we don't even put an emphasis on weight loss. And yes, if you're losing fat over time, you'll see the scale go down on all of those things. But really our goal is to build as much lean tissue on your body as we can so that you can eat more food, so that you have a faster metabolism. Obviously, coming to us from under eating, you're going to be in a place of feeling physically better, right? In terms of like your internal health. But also, like Jessie said, your dream physique probably weighs 10 to 15 pounds heavier than you realize. And it's cool once we see that mental shift in our clients, but it takes a lot of work to get somebody to that point when they've previously maybe obsessed with like the calories that their Apple Watch said they burn in their lift. Well, I only burned 200 calories in your lift that you programmed me, but I used to burn 400 or 500 at Orange Theory. I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter.
So yeah, we care about, I guess we can transition into that. We care about the adaptation that's created from the stress that's put on your body during exercise. We don't care about how many calories you burn during that exercise. And what happens is if you guys are supersetting or circuiting every single workout, and again, me and Jill both used to be there. Okay. So first, let's say that like I had this misconception that I thought I had to keep my heart rate up all the time. I had to burn more calories if I wanted to keep fat off while I was building muscle. And it's like, that's just completely wrong. I was totally wrong. And at the time I was a personal trainer thinking like, this is the way to do it. This is how you build muscle and keep fat off. And it's like, it's just wrong. So anyway, sorry, I forget where I was going to go with that.
That's okay. Supersetting and supersetting and
supersetting. Oh yeah.
We'll get
so
there.
when you're doing these classes and you're doing F45 or Orange Theory or whatever, like, yeah, you're lifting weights as a part of that. But the primary signal that is being sent to your brain and your body is a endurance or a cardio type signal. So when that happens, our body then adapts to become more efficient at cardio, which means we actually burn less calories the more and more and more we do cardio. Whereas muscle actually has the opposite adaptation. So the more muscle you put on, muscle is a very expensive tissue. So it takes a lot of energy just to walk around with, just to maintain it on our figure. Once you put more muscle on, you actually burn more and more and more calories all the time. So again, we're going back to speeding up your basal metabolic rate as opposed to just focusing on how many calories you burn during a given exercise.
And there are still adaptations, right, at play when you're weightlifting. There's still a point where you need to continuously add volume, right, and progressive overload. But it's when you're running, if you think about it this way, let's say you run 3 miles a day, and initially it's super hard to run 3 miles and you're totally gassed after and you burn however many calories, right? Over time, that run is going to feel easier, right? So you think in your head, okay, my watch said I burned this many calories, but your body, like Jessie said, is becoming more efficient, which sounds like it'd be a positive, but you're expending less energy or burning less calories to do that same activity. So you have to constantly be overcoming those adaptations. To do that with running, that means you have to run faster or you have to run longer. Now, that's good, but at some point, right, like you can only run so long and so far before you just literally run out of time in your life for one. Not to mention, like Jessie said, you're actually burning muscle tissue. You're burning away muscle tissue when you're doing those cardio workouts. And I'll give a caveat to that in a second. But if you're burning away muscle, you're actually lowering your metabolism and you're possibly moving further away from the physique that you think you're working towards. Now, we're lowering metabolism and all of that, and that's great, right? You might be thinking, but I love to run. It feels good for me. Great, then run, right? Run your heart out. But if you have specific physique goals, running is probably, or high intensity, F45, Orange Theory, all of that is probably actually working against your goal. So we love running for heart health and all of those things. And if it's just something that makes you feel good, that's amazing. And that's not the point of this, right? The point is just if you have a specific goal that you're working towards with your physique, running is probably going to be working against that a little bit.
Yeah, like all these different adaptations that you can have your body do, they kind of overlap some. So like I
Right.
actually disagree with Jill a little bit on that one in terms of like the more cardio you do, you're burning away muscle. Like it doesn't go exactly like that in terms of like, okay, I run and now my muscle tissue is just breaking down. But there's always this matter of energy balance where our body is trying to figure out how to maintain tissue to keep us with that backstore of energy.
Yes.
And we'll talk about this actually in our next episode. We're going to talk more about like how to structure your training program. And I want to mention this because I know we do have a lot of runners and our clients are like, well, I know you guys hate running. And it's like, no, we don't. We don't dislike running. I just want you to program it in an effective way where the primary signal we're sending is the muscle building one because you are telling me physique is more important or metabolism is more important. If you tell me that this marathon you're running in June is the most important thing, I'm shifting the way I'm programming for you.
Yep. Yeah. And when I talk about muscle like that, that's more of like if you are primarily running for the end result of fat loss, so you're doing more and more and more.
Oh yeah, useless.
Then it's a muscle issue, right? So for sure, and of course, in comparison to obviously lifting weights, totally different in terms of that adaptation. And yeah, I love like when people come to me and they're like, but I like running. I'm like, great, then we work it in, right? It's not this like horrible thing to be doing. You can absolutely incorporate it into your programming. But like Jesse said, strength training has to be the focus if you have those physique goals that you want to change. If you're like, hey, I'm just exercising for my health and doing what makes me feel good, amazing. I still think you should strength train, but if that's running for you, that's good.
Also, like for health and for longevity of being able to lift, you want to add muscle to your body. Like you can only work out for so long. And like that sounds really morbid, but at some point your body's going to break down. Okay. At some point you're not going to be able to run 10 miles a day if you're a runner.
Yes.
It's just physically impossible. Not to mention, like if you get injured along the way, there's going to be down periods. I got pregnant and I wasn't able to work out during my pregnancy because of a high risk thing. Like there's going to be seasons in your life where you need your body to operate for you. You need your metabolism to be fired up to take care of you during those off seasons. And that's what muscle does. Muscle acts as that insurance where it's going to keep your metabolism firing all the time, even when you can't be like, quote unquote, on in terms of your workouts or your diet. So that's why we want to be doing this. Like somebody who has been strength training their whole life, they get into their 60s, 70s, 80s, they're less likely to break a hip. Yes. And that, like, you break a hip and your mortality rate goes up crazy. Like, muscle has so many more impacts in terms of longevity in your general health, too. It's not just a physique thing.
Yeah, the muscle and just the active weightlifting, right, on a regular basis and strength training. And I think it's important, and we talk about this a lot, but, Orange Theory and circuit training and supersetting and all of that, you are limiting your capacity and your ability to properly progressively overload to get the adaptations that you're probably looking for because you think burn more calories, heart rate, sweat more, you should feel more gas, you should feel more sore. And those are all actually terrible markers of the effectiveness of your workout, right? And we want to train for the right adaptations. And that's probably like the thing that you're doing to get your physique that you think I got to burn fat, I got to do these things is actually potentially working against you, right? So I think the way that you add muscle and actually the next episode about building an effective workout is probably going to be super helpful for you guys, but really understanding what does an effective workout program actually look like for these adaptations that you want and for building muscle, we'll talk about, and it's going to be probably super beneficial. But I like what you mentioned about training for those different seasons of life. I think we both went through that in two very different scenarios. And honestly, I can think of a couple clients that went through really solid muscle building phases. Life kind of happened, but all that work that we did served them in the best, like the best way possible during that time where life got a little wonky and physical health and training got put on the back burner, but their metabolism was still doing a lot of work for them because of all the muscle that they built with eating enough calories during that building time frame too. Was super helpful. And I think yours was like just pregnancy postpartum, right? That you were more referring to.
Yeah. I mean, and I go through this so much because I used to, like in college, when I first got into fitness, I was doing 6 HIIT workouts a week. I was always supersetting workouts. I thought I had to keep my heart rate up all the time, and I was eating 1,200 calories because my fitness pal suggested that that's what I eat because I'm only 5 feet tall. So like I was doing all the things now that I know better. But
Yeah.
what would happen is whenever I would take time off, whenever I would go on a vacation, whatever, I would gain weight back right away. And then I
Yes.
became neurotic about like, I can't miss a workout. Like I'm seeing this progress. And over the course of time, once I started shifting my focus to strength and nourishing my body, it's just wild the difference in the way that my body maintains. And I eat, like, this might sound crazy to you guys. I eat on a normal week. Every day I'm eating 25 to 2,800 calories and I am 5 feet tall. And you see my peers see me eat this way and say like, well, she just has a good metabolism. And it's like, no. I built myself a good
Well, you
metabolism.
do, but yeah, you work.
Yeah. I don't just have it. I built this metabolism, and
Right.
you guys could build that metabolism for yourself too. So then when I get to pregnancy, yeah, I mean, I went for more than 6 months doing very, very little. I mean, I was walking as much as I could, stuff like that, but I was really told not to put specifically pressure. Like I was having really early contractions. I had too much fluid. I had gestational diabetes, like all these things, where they were like, hey, weightlifting is probably another stressor. Every time I lifted a little bit, I would get early contractions, like very early. So anyway, I stopped lifting during that period. Did I lose some muscle mass? Absolutely, I did. But postpartum, once I started taking care of my body again, 3 months in, I started lifting again. It was so easy for me to get back physically on the outside anyway. It took a long time in terms of pelvic floor healing and all. But it was way easy to get back because my metabolism was working for me. Whereas again, if I had been eating 1,200 calories and just doing cardio all the time, if I stopped like that, I would have blown up like a balloon. Like it's just how it is.
Yeah, and honestly, I can see such a difference now that because one of these seasons of life for me was fairly recent. And now that I'm back to lifting consistently, it is so crazy when you start to put muscle back on your frame, just the difference in how your body responds eating the same way, right? Like I still get my protein in, I eat a ton of food and whatever, but whereas I was maintaining, or maybe the scale was even creeping up for a second before when I wasn't training, I could see that body composition shift. And I was just like, oh, I don't love this, right? During that period that I couldn't train. And now that I'm in this space and training 4 to 5 days a week and feeling really good and really being able to lift heavy and intentionally and all of those things and prioritize it, I'm like, man, I can eat so much food and I can see myself like slowly getting leaner over time. And I'm around 25 to 2,800 calories right now too, same as what Jesse said. And I'm like, man, this feels so good. And that's with like, no, I don't personally do cardio. And again, right, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't personally do it. Do I move my body intentionally and get steps and all those things? Yes. And I think that's a huge component of health and should be present always, no matter what your goal is to move your body every day and all day somehow. But, building that muscle is so beneficial for me. And I can see the shift metabolically. And I fortunately have the knowledge that I do to understand the adaptations and what's happening with my body. But so many women who would be in my position would probably freak out. Like I'm lifting, I'm working out so much, I'm doing all these things and the scale is not going down. It's like, well, hold on, I'm eating almost 3,000 calories some days and maintaining my weight, but I can see my body fat shifting down. And I'm like, that is like the best win and the best part about building muscle. And also, I don't know about you, but like once I got back into lifting, even if my body didn't change, I just feel myself when I walk by a mirror, like I'm like, damn, you look so strong. Like you look good. It's just so good from so many other like mental aspects of it too.
Yeah, like you feel good. You start to be empowered because you realize like I can do these things that are hard that I like wouldn't have imagined I could do. Yeah. I feel like for me personally, especially working from home, having to go to the gym and like talk to people I don't know, having to look somebody in the eye and be like, hey, can I work in on this next set with you? Like there's mental health benefits to that. Like there's so many different values out of it. So yeah, I totally agree. I just feel good. And again, like you get that little pump where you kind of start to see glimpses into what future you's going to look like too. Like after your workout, you're like, okay, damn, look at this. Look, I got a little line down the side of my legs. It's starting to peek through. Like you start to feel good even when you're not losing any of the fat on top at all. So next week, we're really going to get into the deep part of like how to program a really good, effective workout. but in terms of like key takeaways for how can we build muscle right now, I would say the most important things are, one, you need to eat enough protein. So ideally 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per pound of body weight daily. That's a lot more protein than most clients we see are eating.
And
you
yes,
want
it's
to be
safe for
getting,
your kidneys unless you have a
yes,
diagnosis.
yes. And after 1.2 grams, it's really a point of diminishing return. You don't need to like
Yes.
go crazy. And then in terms of the workout structure, you want to be anywhere between like the 5, I mean, really 3, but anywhere between the 5 and like 25 rep range. So if you are in a group class and you're doing body pump and you're lifting for 25 reps of every single exercise and you see results in those first few months, awesome. But at some point, your body will plateau. So what we want to do is strategically phase in and out of these different rep ranges and take rest in between so that we're really able to lift heavier and heavier within those same rep ranges. So like whatever the thing that is going to work best for you is the thing you are not currently adapted to. So like if you're one of those examples where you're in these group classes and you're lifting 20 to 25 rep ranges, maybe more, usually more, the most effective thing for you would probably be lift heavier only in a 8 to 10 rep range for the next 2 months. Do that and your body's really going to adapt and you'll be able to lift heavier and heavier within that 8 to 10 rep range. And when I say a rep range, that means if you can get 11 or 12 and the goal is 8 to 10, you need to go heavier.
Yes.
And then once you're done that phase, maybe the next phase, you can fluctuate into a 4 to 6 rep range and go even heavier. So we're always being very strategic with how we are cycling these different phases of lifting. And we're lifting as heavy as we can, which means we need to take rests in between sets in order to lift heavy on the next set. So you physically will not be able to lift as heavy if you're like, got to keep my heart rate up. Let me do some high knees in between. Like it's going to gas your central nervous system and you will not be able to lift as heavy the next set. So it's actually taking away from your gains and your hard work in the gym. And then, so I said protein, rep ranges. And then I would say the third
rest
one
periods.
is, rest, recovery, sleep. Okay. So if you're training hard, balls to the wall, 5 to 7 days a week and not giving yourself enough rest or not sleeping enough, your body's going to be breaking down. It's not going to be able to be in that anabolic,
I was going to say you're permanently in a catabolic state at that point, and it's defeating the purpose.
Yep. So I think that those are like the biggest takeaways. Again, we'll get into the weeds a little bit more next week, but yeah, build some muscle, guys. Girls, don't be scared to put on muscle. It'll make you look toned and sculpted and lean and all those things that you think you don't want right now. I promise that that's the outcome you're looking for.
And it's not, building muscle. So many women say, I don't want to look bulky. And I promise you're not just going to wake up one day and like be too big, right? Building muscle is hard and it takes time and it takes intention. And obviously we're talking about that in this episode and many more episodes, but definitely next week. But if you are somebody who feels like Jess, you mentioned that, one little slip up or one vacation and the scale just skyrockets and you freak out and you hold a bunch of water and all of these things. And I can't eat over 1,200 calories because, my body hates it and I gain weight, whatever. The odds are really high that we just need to add some muscle to your frame. And it's really going to transform, I think, the way that women look at weight loss, fat loss, and just physique maintenance in general, but also building muscle and not being afraid of the dumbbell rack or the squat racks in the gym. So yeah, the answer is probably to add muscle, but it's going to help with your metabolism. It's going to help you maintain a leaner physique, and it's going to just be more bang for your buck in the gym. You're going to be able to take more rest days and more recovery days and feel good and feel stronger and just have more time for other shit, honestly, because you're not working out 7 days a week. And I know that could be hard to let go. I mean, God knows we've had clients come to us doing F45 twice a day, 6-7 days a week sometimes when they come to us, and they see better results doing less once they add some muscle to their frame. So I think that's all I have. Is that all? Are we good? Did we cover it all?
I think so. I've thought of like 6 tangents per usual while you're talking because I'm like, there's so much we could go with this. But no, I feel like that's good. Eat some protein, guys. Lift weights, take rest between your sets so that you can lift as heavy as possible with good form, and get some sleep. Yeah. Stop training 7 days a week.
Yes, you need sleep and you need protein and recovery for that muscle that you likely don't know, but need to add to your frame. So that is all we have for this episode of Reality Check. Until next time.
check yourself before you wreck yourself.